Good morning. You know, we've said it before, but there really is no bottom with Donald Trump. Whenever you think he cannot get more vulgar or more selfish, or what am I thinking? Um, the moment that he, the moment we think that he won't go any lower, Donald Trump finds another shovel and keeps digging. It's what he does. So, yesterday on Veterans Day, Donald managed to center himself and diminish the sacrifice that veterans make, that families make when they go into war, or what we these days don't even call war, into battle. Remember, Vietnam was never actually declared a war by Congress. But at any rate, we send young men and women and non-binary people, we used to have the right to serve as well, into situations that transform them in ways that are not always positive when they return. Psychological, physical damage. Sometimes they lose their life. And Donald Trump, on Veterans Day, when he is giving this speech, decides, or his speechwriters decide, that he is going to refer to a veteran who lost his life, but not in a way that honors his sacrifice. Instead, Donald Trump decides to essentially mouth the words of someone who tells people, tells soldiers, don't complain. Okay, just shut the fuck up about dying. That is not the only thing that he did. And I'm going to share with you, I am going to share with you that video. But he also announced that he wants to rename Veterans Day, November 11th, to Victory Day. And ask yourself, what is the difference? They both begin with the letter V. Well, the difference is Victory Day represents a kind of nationalistic glory that redounds to the leaders and the entire nation without showing respect to veterans. And specifically, he wants it to be Victory Day to honor the First World War, the U.S. role there. Now, we know the end of the First World War was just the beginning of much worse situations, eventually global depression, the Germany feeling it had been crushed by the Allies, and then the rise of fascism, ultimately into World War II. So I'm not sure how much I would like to refer to that as a victory, but nevertheless, veterans are people. Veterans are people who serve in battle, who serve in the military. Also, to defend the country, ideally, I like to think of this as defense, not offense, at any rate. But victory is an abstract concept. Victory is a trophy that Donald Trump gets to put on his shelf. It is not about people. It's about ideas. And listen, I love ideas. But at the end of the day, people have ideas. People lead. If you are a humanist, that is where you go. You don't go to the idea of victory. That can be brandished, that can be held out by someone like Trump to give him credit, even for this war where he was not alive. So let me just share with you what he said. I find this incredibly offensive, and it's fully in line with what we have heard reported that he said during his first term, that he considered people, soldiers, to be suckers and losers who went into battle. Let's play what he said yesterday. And also note that he looks like death warmed over.
God, he said, we ask only this, that if we die, we must die, and we as men would die without complaining, without pleading, and safe in the feeling that we have done our best for what we believed was right. We must do what is right. Colonel Wolverton, too, died for us so bravely in battle. Today we remember.
Okay, did you hear that? I'm going to play the beginning again.
Dear God, he said, we ask only this, that if we die, we must die, and we as men would die without complaining, without pleading.
We as men must die without complaining and without pleading. This is what he is holding up as an ideal. Now, someone scolded me on Blue Sky last night, because Blue Sky is filled with self-righteous scolds sometimes, saying that the thumbnail for today, where it says Trump tells vets, quote, die without complaining, end quote. I get this person in my feed saying something like, oh, he didn't say that. He was quoting somebody. And I said, what difference does that make? When you quote somebody, you are asserting what they are saying, unless you are quoting someone, as I am now, to critique what they are saying. The words were coming out of his mouth, and he was endorsing them. And the person responded to me saying, yes, but it's not a soundbite, and we become them when we do that. So I blocked them because I don't need that shit. Now here, please, in the chat, talk. I won't block you for that, but I don't need that on Blue Sky. I just don't. And I am not, and it's also such a scolding, passive aggressive thing. We become like that. I am nothing like MAGA. It's a fucking joke. He literally did say, die without complaining. He literally did quote someone and hold them up as a paragon of how veterans should behave. To die without complaining and pleading. The lack of humanity in that is disgusting. And it also reminded me, going back to my sort of roots as someone who loves poetry and literature and any kind of expression of the human condition through language. It so much reminded me of Dylan Thomas. Now, you might know of Dylan Thomas. And I don't know when I first became aware of his work, but he's a Welsh poet who I think he died in the 1950s. And I want to share with you, in contrast, Donald Trump says, die without complaining and pleading, right? That's who he decides to quote. Let me tell you what Dylan Thomas's quite famous poem, Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night. Now, instead of me reading it, would you like to hear Dylan Thomas? And I know this is unorthodox, and I'm sure I'm going to lose viewers, but fuck it. It's time for a little prism time. We need some, as you know, physical health, relational health, intellectual health, spiritual health, mental health, right? This is intellectual and spiritual health. If you don't like poetry, bye-bye. If you do, this is lovely, and we will get back to money, politics, and snark. I should say law, money, and snark after a little poetry. Let's play it. Here is Dylan Thomas reading Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night, put together by someone who's put a kind of montage of his photos so you can see him while you listen. So that's an alternative. That's a way to be in the world. And instead, we get die without complaining or pleading, said, let me play it again, with quite a flaccid voice. He's struggling to read the teleprompter. Compare and contrast.
God, he said, we ask only this, that if we die, we must die, and we as men would die without complaining, without pleading.
What a vulgar pig of a person. That's it. I mean, I could just end the show now, just sign off forever with that. But no, we have more to talk about. Now, Donald Trump, as the expression goes, everything he touches dies. The man bankrupt more than one casino. He has managed to land on his feet, never have this brand be tarnished. People just throw money at him no matter how many times he fails them because he keeps becoming too big to fail himself. He is a bully. And it turns out the people who are supposed to be our leaders, people, whether it's not all academics, but some universities, some law firms, many politicians, hello, all of you Republicans, and some Democrats, are so afraid of losing their own little bit of power in the world that they capitulate. We don't have to. Now, Donald Trump, every person in his administration who is supposed to do one job is failing at it. Thank you, Loki. You're very sweet. So Donald Trump comes into office saying that his number one thing was grocery. He loved this old-fashioned word he thought no one had ever used before, grocery, and that he was going to bring down prices on groceries, right? That was what he said he would do. And so let's see how that's going for him. This is a screenshot from Aaron Rupert, and you can see he has a quote above this. This is on Blue Sky. When I win, I will immediately bring prices down starting on day one. So let's take a look. I'm going to back out of this shot a little bit so you can see it better. Let's take a look here at what's going on. This is groceries. This is News Nation, not exactly a bastion of liberalism or anarchy. Grocery prices continue to climb. This is a one-year change. Coffee up 41%, right? This is since November, since after the election. Okay, then we have ground beef is up 12%, orange juice 12%, bananas 9%, potato chips 8%, chicken breast 5%. So I'm guessing you all didn't get 8% more in your paycheck. I'm guessing that in addition to not getting an 8% pay raise this year, for those of the folks who are employed, I'm imagining Social Security payments have not gone up 8%. I'm imagining, I know that your healthcare premiums are not going down to balance out the fact that groceries are more expensive. Donald Trump told us that we wouldn't be paying tariffs. And guess what? Prices have gone up because of the tariffs. The costs are being passed along to us. A good chunk of those increases are related to that, not all of them. And on top of that, if you are someone, I just saw someone who had purchased, I'm trying to think of what it was. It wasn't coffee, but it was something else. in large quantities. And on his bill that he was buying, he had the tariff charged directly to him, because, these days when you buy things online and you buy them directly from abroad, you are actually literally paying the tariff. It's different if you walk into your local grocery store, whether it's your Walmart or your Whole Food or your, Piggly Wiggly or a local bodega. Those prices are higher because the folks who purchase the produce for the retail store have to pay more, as do the importers and so on. Anyway, thank you, Ada. Oh my God. She's paying me extra for all of my foul words. It's only going to encourage me. Holy shit. Oops, I swore again. Take it out of my paycheck. Okay, so you guys are great. So that's what's going on. But even as you can see the numbers, they are still lying to us about prices, right? So let's listen to Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, lie to our faces about prices. I'm going through all these guys. I'm going to do Treasury Secretary. I'm going to do Transportation Secretary. I'm going to do Kevin Hassett. Let's do Kevin Hassett first, the head of the council, the President's National Economic Council. Let's play what he has to say about the prices that we know are going up, about inflation generally, not just those specific prices. Let's play his bullshit. Okay.
Reopening, Goldman today says the reopening does raise the prospect of some reflation, plus a tailwind from tax season, obviously depreciation and the bill's effects. Do you think fighting or getting disinflation in the first half is going to be a little more of a challenge than it has been?
Well, I mean, if you look at it, right, the last CPI report surprised almost all the Wall Street analysts, 48 of them on the downside, meaning it was good news on inflation. And that number itself was inflated because there was a bunch of refineries shut down, if you're looking at the top line. And so we're comfortable that inflation has come way down, the 5% on average for Joe Biden. It's probably a little less than half of that right now. And the trajectory is really, really, really good if you look at it. And inflation is one of those things that has a lot of momentum if you look at the charts. And the momentum right now is headed really towards the Fed's target.
Even though it's been increasing for 5 straight months as of September?
What?
Well, I guess if you look at it from January, there's ups and downs and seasonals, but
Holy shit, they called him out. Now, let me just make something clear. I think you know this. Even if, let's say we had a price level, let's say the price level is, $10 a pound for a coffee. Let's just pick that number. That seems high, but holy shit, I haven't bought coffee in a while. I'm still drinking the stuff I had in my freezer and those beans. Anyway, so let's say it's $10 a pound. If inflation has increased it, let's say to $10, and I'm just going to pick a number. I'm not picking let's look at what his number is. He says coffee is up, 41%. So if it's now not $10, but it's $10.40, instead of $10, it's now $14 a pound. Let's just say that's what it's gone up to. Even if inflation stopped, like if it just flattened, the price isn't going to go down based on, if you're saying that, inflation is stopped. Or let's say inflation for coffee is only at 5%. It doesn't decrease. You're still at $10.41. I'm not defending Donald Trump. I'm saying this happened to Joe Biden, because even if inflation is slowing, the rate of inflation, which is deliberately set, we want a little bit of inflation so people buy things, so the perception that things will go up in price. If you think prices are falling, you'll hold off on purchasing. So having a certain level of inflation is what you want over time to increase, to stimulate the economy, but you also want wages to increase with inflation. I'm just talking about the sort of policy around this. However, the reality, as I said, isn't even if, like when Joe Biden was saying, listen, inflation is slowing, people still went to the store and said, but the prices aren't what they used to be. They haven't reverted to where it was. So that's the trouble with how inflation can get out of control. Because if wages don't keep up with inflation, then you have this mismatch and people can't afford what they used to be able to afford across everything. And then if wages go up, you might say, well, what if wages go up? That sounds great until you realize that wages are also going to go up to have to pay the teachers at the schools. Wages are going to also go up to have to pay for people who work in stores. And then that can also increase prices. So it can be this very hard cycle to get out of. And I'm speaking not like an economist, I'm just speaking like a human describing this to you. Okay. So the reality is, even with that, even with all that said, Hassett's lying. He's like, inflation's going down, but they're saying, nah, that's not the rate. That's not what we are seeing. Let's go back and see the very end of that, what the Newsmax guy said to him. So let's listen to that carefully now that you know this.
Momentum right now is headed really towards the Fed's target.
Even though it's been increasing for 5 straight months as of September?
So the rate of inflation is increasing. He's not saying just, prices are, because prices can go up even if the rate's going down. So he kind of bullshits and say, oh, well, it's seasonal stuff, whatever. Bullshit. Let's now listen to, if you don't just want to hear Kevin Hassett lie to you, let's listen to Scott Bessent bullshit you too. Okay, let's go.
And we came in, we inherited a mess. We have brought the inflation down. And Rob, there are 2 ways for curing affordability. There's bringing inflation down, because some of the prices we are going to be able to bring down. So energy prices, gasoline,
down quite a bit.
4-year low.
Yeah.
4-year low.
So, yeah, he sounds like he's saying what I'm saying, right? But let's look at this reality again. The fact that he says gasoline is at a 4-year low, how about let's talk about ground beef and coffee? The other thing they're doing, I'm sure you've heard, is Donald Trump is touting, if you want to feed your family and you buy this Walmart Thanksgiving package, it's less expensive. Well, what he doesn't say is it's less expensive because it has fewer items in it. That's a way to make things less expensive too. Pay the same thing for less. That's not truthful. Okay, so we've got them bobbing and weaving on inflation. Remember, yesterday we saw we're not adding jobs. We have, if you look at the jobs reports, if we actually had real job reports, if you look at, because the government isn't putting out the real job reports, we look at ADP, the payroll company, jobs are in decline, prices are going up. I'm not hearing wages are going up. So our Treasury Secretary and the head of the Council of Economic Advisors for the president, not doing great. But let's talk about air travel, right? Now that the shutdown is almost over, is it going to be back to normal? Why don't we look at Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy?
We are fully focused on making up that delta. And by the time we leave, President Trump says we're going to have all the controllers that America needs to control our airspace.
What? What did he just say?
But we are fully focused on making up that delta. And by the time we leave, President Trump says we're going to have all the controllers that America needs to control our airspace.
By the time we leave? Are they going to leave office before Thanksgiving because we fucking need them now? No. He's saying, I think, and this is how it's been interpreted. Okay. Is this really true? In January of 2029, more than 3 years from now, they're going to have enough air traffic controllers? He says this out of one side of his mouth, and out of the same bullshit side of his mouth, he's also saying, guess what? If you didn't show up, air traffic controller, during the shutdown, because maybe you had to get a side job to actually pay your fucking bills, we don't want you back. That's what he's saying. Now, he's also saying it's not my job to guarantee your safety. Well, no one thought you could be directly sue him if you die in a crash. But what an idiot. It's not my job to guarantee your safety. This is the transportation secretary. Remember, we used to have Mayor Pete Buttigieg, and this is what we have instead. That's okay. So we've got we've got prices, and we have transportation. How about healthcare? You know, as you probably know, Donald Trump has been promising since he first took office in 2017 that a new healthcare plan was 2 weeks away, which is great because let's hear what it is. And so we have Dr. Oz, the Center for Medicaid. Oz is what? The Center for Medicaid and Disease Control. What is it? So let's see. What is his actual title? Okay, he's the Center for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid Services. So that's a CMS. Okay, and of course he's under Brainworm Health and Human Services Secretary, and he's asked on Fox News, what is the Republican health care plan? Because remember, the 8 Democrats caved, and we're going to get a vote on extending the subsidies, the extra subsidies so people can pay for their insurance under the Affordable Care Act. We know we're going to get a vote on that. We're hearing there'll be a vote in the Senate. I'm not sure if Mike Johnson will have the House vote, but we know they have no fucking intention of extending the subsidies. They want to kill Obamacare. They want to make it so expensive that people go without insurance. Donald Trump has said something about you don't need anything but $2,000 a year. And you, like you and I, if you're someone who doesn't, I get my insurance through my employer, but if you're someone who doesn't, he's going to hand you $2,000 and think that you're going to negotiate a better plan with $2,000, which is less money than you're probably paying right now in premiums, that you're going to negotiate a better plan than what you have. And so you will get a junk plan where you will be paying for very little coverage, probably. There's no way that that's a better negotiation than the government negotiating for you. And by the way, right now you can also negotiate your own plans, but the difference is these plans to be approved, have to have some level. I mean, you know which level. Is this a silver plan? Is this a bronze plan? Is this a whatever plan? But they have to have some quality, so it's not just a joke or a fraud. But remember, Donald Trump loves calling things loves to have things like his fake university, where he charges people less money than a real university, but it's worth nothing. And he lies about its quality. So of course he would want Trump insurance, which would be, you take this $2,000 and put it wherever you want. Okay, let's hear though what Dr. Oz has to say.
What would Trump care look like?
Well, these are all ideas that we're still working on, in part because until the government shutdown formally ends, we don't have all the people in the room who need to work on these programs, including actuaries and insurance.
Wait, until they get the people in the room, they can't, until the shutdown ends, they can't get the people in the room, like actuaries? Fuck off. I have seen Donald Trump hire construction companies to knock down an entire chunk of the White House. He has been able to gild the fuck out of the Oval Office, even during a shutdown. I don't believe you. You are a liar. Liar. Okay, I'm sorry. I just don't mean to shout at him, but I can't help it.
Experts.
Okay. How much do you think he gives one fig? Donald Trump or the Republicans, how much do you think they give one fig about any of us if they're claiming they're waiting until now to get actuaries in the room? How dumb do they think we are? Or do they think we're just going to sit back and take it? We don't have to. Now, so I've done groceries, I've done prices, I've talked about air travel, we've now talked about healthcare. There's something else, though. let's, okay. I got one more. Let me just, let me give you one more thing. When you want to know about the priorities, it's interesting. They couldn't get the actuaries in the room, they claim, to talk about whatever plan that has been being cooked up now for 8 years. Apparently, we're waiting now to the last minute. But they are able to come up with this now $40 billion proposed bailout of Argentina. And so let's hear Scott Bessent once again try to justify that as being in our interests.
People that are thinking America first, as you said, this is a line of credit, and when it's borrowed on, we make money, I believe, on the interest, right? They pay back with interest.
Well, they pay back with interest, but the way to think about it is, like, maybe for your first loan, your parents co-signed for it.
Sure.
We basically co-signed, and we are getting a big fee.
Yep.
It's from something called the Exchange Stabilization Fund.
Okay. It's like your parents co-signing on your first loan. Except it's fucking not like that. Argentina has been a country since, I want to say, 1918, when it declared its independence from Spain. So that was, I'm sorry, not 1918, 1818. 1816. So Argentina declares its independence it was in 1816 or 1818, right? From Spain, War of Independence. So just to be clear, 200 years old, not a teenager getting a loan. Getting a loan guarantee, co-signing on a loan. Secondly, let me ask you, if you go to your parents for a loan and you have already defaulted numerous times on other loans, would they co-sign for you? Because the deal is you only get paid your fucking interest back, which, by the way, parents don't usually, well, whatever. You only get paid, because he's saying it's like co-signing on loan and we're getting interest. A lender who lends you money doesn't get paid back the principal, like $40 billion or $40 million or $40. They don't get paid back the principal if you can't make the payment. And you also don't get interest payments if you default. And so I just want to let you know, in case you were wondering, about Argentina's history of default. According to the International Monetary Fund, Argentina has had its hand out for quite a while this year. Back in April, the IMF Executive Board approved a 48-month U.S., this is the $20 billion extended arrangement for Argentina. And this is obviously in this context that we are talking about. Now, Argentina and defaults, let me just tell you, Argentina has a long history of debt trouble. It has gone through defaults as recently as, let's see, there was it had to have its debt restructuring. I'm looking at this European Parliament think tank ahead of the 2023 elections. The then president had to get a deal to restructure $44 billion of debt from a record 2018 bailout, but it goes back to 2001. Since 2001, in the last 24 years, Argentina has defaulted on its international sovereign debt 3 times. Okay, in 2001, in the middle of a serious financial crisis, in 2014, then in the middle of COVID. I got to tell you, it's not like your parents giving you your co-signing on your first loan. It's more like a country that is 200 years old with a recent history of serial defaulting, putting its hand out to the United States when we will not even help our own people in this country. And Bessent later in that interview said, oh, but we are reasserting power and control in Latin America with money and not bullets. Good luck with that plan. I thought we also have ships headed to Venezuela, where Donald Trump is about to engage in war without congressional approval. Now, I've got even more. Let's go back now to this issue of affordability. Oops.
A pound on sale. It was $4.
Okay, this is because this is a key thing. I can talk about giving money to Argentina. I want to now share with you what this is. Remember, this is News Nation, kind of like Fox News, but more so. And this is what they're putting up. Okay, sorry.
Hamburger is now $8 a pound on sale. It was $4 a pound on sale last year. I call that a 100% increase. And she started the email off by saying, I am a Trump supporter.
All right, let's take beef.
Okay, so I wanna let you know this is Alice L, and she wrote this in to Leland of News Nation, and the person who is going to respond to this on behalf of the Trump administration, or in the tank for Trump, is Peter Navarro, and he is now a senior counselor on trade and manufacturing for the Trump administration. Let's see what he has to say.
Hamburger is now $8 a pound on sale. It was $4 a pound on sale last year. I call that a 100% increase. And she started the email off by saying, I am a Trump supporter.
All right, let's take beef.
So what do you say to her right now? It's not about one thing. It's about.
We feel your pain. We are literally doing everything we can. I mean, I actually meet with a group.
But the president calls it a con job.
I meet with a group.
Wait, did you hear that? Leland just said, I need you to, as Navarro's saying, the president feels your pain. This guy, the host, the anchor here, or the host at News Nation said, but the president calls it a con job. The president, when he's asked about prices going up, says they're not, it's a con job. So how can he feel their pain? So I'm just going to play it again so you don't miss it. And then I will not I'm zipping, I'm not talking.
I mean, I actually meet with a group.
But the president calls it a con job.
I meet with a group once a week in the Roosevelt room where we've got an attack plan to deal with beef.
I get that, Peter, but I'm going to give you the last minute. The president calls this a con job. How do the American people think he feels their pain when he says it's a con job?
At the political level, that's what's going on. They blame him for Biden's legacy.
And therefore he's angry.
And that makes him angry. But again,
I understand
the discussion we can have, and I'll come back for a longer one.
Please do.
I understand your point. So how long is he going to blame Joe Biden for everything? Forever. Because Donald Trump blames everyone but himself. And that's how that is going to go. Now, I think I need to cheer you up about one thing, which is this is, listen up, something good about the shutdown ending, which is the House is coming back into session today. Adelita Gravhala will be sworn in from Arizona. And that means, in theory, the discharge position will be passed. And now there will be, in theory, a full vote in the House as to whether to release the Epstein files. Let's play that.
Looks like you have 219 to 213, but they keep telling me the actual numbers are you can only lose 2 votes. What are the numbers as you know them?
That is correct. After tonight, so I believe Mike Johnson will be swearing in the new representative from New Mexico before we start voting, which means we'll have a margin of 2 by the time that's done.
It's weird that he said New Mexico when she's from Arizona. I know the states are next to each other, but I thought it was a little weird that he would say that. It's okay. It's kind of fine. Okay, so that means we have to keep our eyes on this, right? And let's just remember the slideshow. Donald Trump, hopefully, will be freaking out. Remember what he said? I don't understand it. This was in July when he tried to shut down releasing the Epstein files. When he promised to do that, campaigning, I don't understand it, why they would be so interested. He's dead for a long time. He was never a big factor in terms of life. Doesn't matter that he is dead for a long time, Donald. He was the most prolific, disgusting sexual predator on children and young women that we have ever heard of in the world. And the deal is, he was your best friend for maybe 15 years. Here he is, leering at women in 1992 at Mar-a-Lago. Nothing illegal about leering at women, of course, but he was your pal. And we also know the stories about how there you were with him when he was hitting on young girls. We know that, the comments that you made. And we also know that you flew on his plane. And we also know that Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now in a minimum security kind of prison camp, is getting special treatment and is now working, as been reported, with the, she's been working with the warden of her prison to file for a commutation, which would be reducing or eliminating her prison sentence without actually overturning the pardon, wouldn't actually end the guilty verdict. But here they are hanging out in 2000, Donald, right? Melania, Jeff, and Ghislaine. And you might remember Virginia Roberts, whose book just came out and who had so much power through her voice, even posthumously, that the gentleman formerly known as Prince Andrew has been stripped of all of his titles and now is just Andrew Mountbatten, I think, Windsor, is that his name? And the deal is, when this information actually comes out about Donald Trump, and not just Donald Trump, but the friends he is trying to cover up for, if it actually comes out, maybe there can be justice in this world for these young women, these girls, and their families who have suffered so much. Now, what I want to say to you also here is something you may not be fully aware of. I think I've talked about it, but in Virginia Roberts Giuffre's posthumous autobiography called Nobody's Girl, she talks about how there was a well-known prime minister who brutally and violently raped her. It's disgusting. I think I've referred to it. And it is implied, though not explicitly stated, that that might be Ehud Barak. And I think this needs to come out, every single high level and every single low level. Every single man or woman who was involved in this needs to be named and prosecuted for those crimes for which the statute of limitation has not run, which would include child sexual abuse. I can say it should. I don't know if it will, but that is where I am with all of this. Now, of course, I don't want to skip out here on Crazy Town, but let me give you a lead into Crazy Town before I give you the music. Not only does Donald Trump insult veterans, but he also insults Americans. He likes the idea of America as a concept that he can wear as a brand. He likes victory as a concept that is a brand. He doesn't care about people other than himself. As you see the sycophants around him at all of his meetings have to say how great he is, how grateful they are to work for him. Talk about a desperate, empty husk of a human being. What a sad, sad life. And how much damaged people damage others. Fred Trump Sr. created monsters in that family. Now, let me share with you Crazy town. It's not every day that or almost any day, that I share a Fox News interview with Laura Ingraham. But here we go. Interviewing Donald Trump, in which we find out he thinks America has no talent.
B visa thing will not be a big priority for your administration, because if you want to raise wages for American workers, you can't flood the country with tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of foreign workers.
You also do have to bring in talent. When
we
a
have
country
plenty of talented people
no,
here.
You don't. No, you don't.
We don't have talented people here?
No, you don't have. You don't have certain talents, and people have to learn. You can't take people off an unemployment line and say, I'm going to put you into a factory where we're going to make missiles, or I'm going to put
How did we ever do it before?
Great question, Laura. I really don't have any answers for how this man is running this country. And when you see something that doesn't make sense, there has to be some kind of self-interest or financial interest from people who are going to pretend it's fine. When you were a kid and you go to the movies and there was a really bad movie and you say, how the hell did this get made? And then you sort of pull back the curtain. You find out someone who had influence or money or power wanted to make that movie. Donald Trump is still in office because people who like this, who are watching this movie, this comedy, this tragedy, they're getting something out of it. And we're not. We must stand up. We must tell the truth. And we will win. And there still will be lies and gaslighting. You don't need to convince anybody. You just need to speak the truth so you don't get brainwashed. And with that, have a lovely Wednesday. I will see you Thursday morning.
Hello, prison mates. It's the Gen Taub Show, where welcome everyone. Let's learn about what is happening in politics yesterday and today. There is hope, and we are together in this democracy we work for. And again, welcome to the Gen Taub Show.